Have you ever wondered how to ask a woman for intimacy without making her feel pressured? Have you ever asked yourself whether the timing was right or if your words would be understood the way you intended? These are questions many men face, but often avoid discussing. Intimacy is not just about physical closeness, it's about emotional connection, respect, and shared comfort. But here's the real challenge. How do you express your desire honestly while also making sure she feels safe and valued? If you've ever been unsure about how to bring this up, you're not alone. The truth is, asking for intimacy isn't about finding the perfect line or using a trick. It's about respect, communication, and patience. In this video, we'll break down the right way to ask step by step so you can approach intimacy as a shared choice, not a demand. When considering how to ask a woman for intimacy, the most important starting point is building a foundation of respect, trust, and understanding. Intimacy does not exist in isolation. It is the natural extension of emotional closeness, shared values, and mutual care. Before even thinking about asking for physical closeness, it is essential to reflect on the relationship itself. Is there trust between you? Do you listen to her, acknowledge her boundaries, and validate her feelings? Too often, people think of intimacy as a single moment or request, when in reality, it is the culmination of many small demonstrations of respect and attention. A woman is more likely to feel comfortable and safe if she knows you prioritize her well, being above your own desires. Communication should always begin by acknowledging the importance of her choices, her comfort, and her feelings. For example, expressing your appreciation for her presence in your life and clarifying that her comfort matters more than anything else sets a supportive tone. This shows that intimacy, if it happens, is not a demand or an expectation, but rather something that will be welcomed only if both partners genuinely want it. At this stage, you should aim to create an environment where she feels empowered to say yes, no, or not yet, without fear of disappointment or judgment. Respectful language, patient listening, and a willingness to slow down are crucial. By making it clear that your request is not about fulfilling an urge, but about deepening a connection, you lay the groundwork for intimacy to be understood as a shared experience, not a one-sided desire. This foundation is not just about asking, but about ensuring that both of you are emotionally aligned before moving into physical closeness. When it comes time to express your desire for intimacy, the conversation should be rooted in clarity, openness, and sensitivity. Asking a woman for intimacy is not about rehearsed lines or persuasive techniques. It is about creating space for genuine dialogue. One of the most respectful approaches is to frame your feelings honestly. Speak from the heart rather than from pressure or expectation. For instance, you could say something like, I feel very close to you, and I value the bond we share. I'd love for us to explore a more intimate connection, but only if that's something you feel comfortable with. Statements like this are effective because they communicate interest while leaving full agency in her hands. It is important to remember that asking for intimacy is not a one-time event, but an ongoing conversation. Consent can change, and a woman may feel differently depending on the situation, her emotions, or the pace of the relationship. Always allow her to respond fully without interruption, and be prepared to accept her answer gracefully, whether it is affirmative or not. This is where listening becomes more important than speaking. It is not enough to ask. You must also honor her response. Moreover, your body language should match your words. Relaxed, open posture, and warm eye contact show sincerity rather than pressure. Avoid creating scenarios where she may feel cornered or obligated, as true intimacy only grows in an environment where both partners feel completely free to choose. Asking thoughtfully also means being specific about what intimacy means to you, whether it is emotional closeness, physical affection, or sexual connection, because assumptions can easily lead to misunderstandings. Above all, thoughtful communication ensures that intimacy is not rushed or demanded, but offered as a natural choice that respects both your feelings and hers. When you ask with honesty and openness, you demonstrate maturity and care, making intimacy a conversation rather than a negotiation. Beyond the act of asking, one of the greatest demonstrations of care is patience. Intimacy develops at different paces for different people, and a woman's comfort level may take time to grow. By being patient, you signal that you value her emotional safety more than immediate gratification. Many individuals feel vulnerable when it comes to intimacy, especially if they carry past experiences, cultural values, or personal insecurities that affect their willingness to open up. A patient partner acknowledges this and adjusts expectations accordingly. For example, if she hesitates or expresses uncertainty, rather than pushing, you can affirm her by saying, "That's perfectly okay. I want us both to be comfortable, and I'm happy to wait until you feel ready." Such reassurances not only relieve potential pressure, but also deepen trust, as she can see that your desire for intimacy is rooted in genuine care rather than urgency. Patience also involves investing in the relationship outside of physical closeness, spending quality time together, and supporting her ambitions and showing up consistently in small ways that matter. These actions demonstrate that your interest extends beyond intimacy and that your commitment is genuine. Importantly, patience is not passive waiting, but active nurturing. It is continuing to build an emotional bond so that intimacy naturally emerges rather than being forced. Emotional safety is the soil in which physical closeness grows, and your ability to prioritize her sense of security will often determine whether intimacy becomes a shared reality. Therefore, being patient, understanding, and supportive are not secondary traits, but central to successfully and respectfully asking for intimacy. When she feels safe with you, intimacy is no longer something to be asked for, but something that naturally evolves. True intimacy cannot exist without mutual desire. Even if you ask respectfully, listen carefully, and wait patiently, intimacy will only be meaningful if both partners genuinely want it. This means paying attention not only to her words, but also to her comfort level, enthusiasm, and nonverbal cues. Mutuality transforms intimacy from an act into an experience of shared joy and connection. A respectful approach is to check in regularly, both verbally and emotionally, to ensure that the intimacy you seek is something she equally desires. For example, if she agrees but seems hesitant, it may be wise to pause and revisit the conversation later. By making it clear that you value her enjoyment and participation as much as your own, you emphasize that intimacy is not a transaction, but a partnership. Additionally, recognizing that intimacy takes many forms. Holding hands, deep conversations, affectionate gestures, or sexual closeness broadens the scope of how you connect. This perspective removes the pressure from a single outcome and instead focuses on deepening the bond in whatever way feels right for both of you. A woman will likely feel more at ease when she knows that your view of intimacy is holistic and not limited to physical acts alone. Mutuality also involves you being equally open about your own boundaries, feelings, and pace, creating a balance where both of you are contributing honestly. By framing intimacy as a shared exploration rather than a request to be granted, you create an environment where both partners can thrive. Ultimately, intimacy should feel like a natural progression, not a negotiation, and mutuality ensures that it grows from a place of equality and genuine connection. Asking a woman for intimacy is less about finding the perfect words and more about embodying respect, patience, honesty, and care. It is about making sure she feels safe, valued, and free to choose. Intimacy cannot be demanded. It must be mutually desired and built upon trust. By setting a strong foundation of respect, asking thoughtfully with openness to her response, practicing patience in her timing, and prioritizing mutual desire, you create an environment where intimacy can flourish naturally. This approach ensures that any closeness you share is not just physical, but deeply meaningful, rooted in love and trust. When handled with sincerity, asking for intimacy becomes not a challenge, but an opportunity to strengthen the bond between you and your partner, creating a connection that respects her autonomy while celebrating your shared closeness.